This is the artificial intelligence voice of Stephen Bartlett narrating this Podslice summary of the Diary of a CEO podcast. In this insightful discussion, host Stephen Bartlett engages with Dr. Jordan Peterson, renowned psychologist and professor, on a variety of subjects touching on fundamental areas of human existence. The dialogue starts with addressing people's struggle to communicate effectively in relationships. Stephen transitions the topic from relationship dynamics to broader life struggles, citing Dr. Peterson's approach to helping individuals rise from their difficulties. A noteworthy part of the dialogue comes when Stephen shares a feedback message from a listener expressing gratitude for Dr. Peterson's guidance that saved his life. Peterson responds that his role is merely as a conduit of ideas, sharing valuable knowledge he has assimilated over the years. He demystifies success, attributing it to the ability to simplify the complex and make it understandable to people in turmoil. Dr. Peterson then talks about addressing problems by breaking them down to their simplest elements. He shares a profound example of an elderly client who initially couldn't sit up due to severe depression. The client's roadway to recovery began with sitting up for just 30 seconds, signifying how anyone can start with the simplest possible steps. He also delves into the subject of humility, emphasizing that progress in life always begins from the point where you can start, even if that point may seem overwhelmingly trivial or insignificant. He further adds that it's challenging for people who've suffered significant setbacks to acknowledge how far they've fallen because it can be perceived as humiliating. A notable highlight is when Dr. Peterson emphasizes the importance of a systematic approach to problem solving, knowing the problems, defining what better looks like, and formulating strategies. He demonstrates the principle by relating a case study of a client who struggled even with a simple task like vacuuming his room. The dialogue underscores the idea of collaborative empiricism, where the solution to the problem needs to be voluntarily accepted by the individual for it to work. Dr. Peterson brings home the point that if a task is broken down small enough, anyone can make progress regardless of how intimidating the bigger picture is. Addressing the human predilection for avoidance. Dr. Peterson outlines the concept of exposure therapy, rooting from his experiences with clients suffering from debilitating, profound conditions such as agoraphobia. He describes the methodology of therapy, gradually taking the individual toward the object of fear in digestible increments. Peterson delivers a concrete illustration of how a fear escalates from a mere concern to a scenario of painful death mixed with public humiliation, using the example of fear of elevators. Delving into the concept of therapy, Dr. Peterson underscores the importance of not stealing an individual's problems. He warns about the peril of directing the course of a person's path, prioritizing instead their autonomy and self-discovery. Switching gears, the professor translates these therapeutic techniques to everyday scenarios, such as assisting struggling individuals in our lives. Peterson underscores that men often falter in their interactions with women, jumping prematurely to solutions without fully understanding the problem. The psychologist instead recommends active listening and subsequent problem formulation as critical stages, noting that the correct identification of a problem is 95. Dr. Peterson commends the skill of renowned podcaster Joe Rogan, elevating Rogan's ability to gauge his level of comprehension as representative of his audience's understanding. In a comparison, the professor emphasizes that acknowledging ignorance and proceeding with curiosity and openness is a powerful tool in unfolding clarity for oneself and others. Upon discussing the structure of problems, Peterson employs the term circumambulation from renowned psychiatrist Carl Jung. He analogizes the concept to the instinctual predator detection system's operation within humans, iteratively spiraling towards the central issue through repeated approximation. The dialogue culminates, highlighting how asking thoughtful, compassionate questions aids in navigating towards the crux of a problem rather than assuming its face value. Deepening the conversation, Bartlett and Dr. Peterson dissect the dynamics of problem solving between genders. The professor recalls a narrative of a woman sharing her tribulations with her company and its unsettling effects. He explains how defensive reactions, desire to solve problems, play dominance roles, or even attractions can interfere with a conversation. He recommends adopting an approach of patient, active listening to understand the complete problem. Peterson points out the psychological tendency of an individual to develop a defense mechanism to guard their vulnerabilities, describing it as a series of screen concerns. He also suggests the art of active listening signals an openness to handle a problem without feeling the need to avoid it. Relating this to the workplace, Bartlett shares an anecdote of a co-worker who was feeling unsettled with their current role. Through careful probing, Bartlett discovered that her dissatisfaction stemmed from being detached from important tasks, and their job role was occupied with trivial tasks, which she perceived to be unfulfilling. Dr. Peterson then brings in Freud's technique of free association. He explains how letting people freely associate their ideas can bring about an implicit similarity that was not previously visible. The problem tends to spiral and often reminds people of early traumatic experiences that have not been resolved. Peterson uses Freud's term of trauma as a hole that hasn't been filled in, thereby being a constant pitfall in one's life that needs to be patched up. Tears also form a significant part of their discussion, presented as a mechanism of release that marks the readiness for learning something new. This dissolution of a person's current conceptual structure may be uncomfortable, but is necessary for their neuroplasticity and evolution. Moreover, Peterson underscores the cruciality of monitoring our reactions, especially when a partner is trying a new tactic in a relationship. Initial reactions can greatly determine the success or failure of the new tactic. This behavioral change process is fragile and requires patience and support. Bartlett resonates with Peterson's idea of addressing issues in relationships, providing a personal anecdote of how he navigated his partner's attachment style. He elaborates on a system where immediate communication about triggers and feelings was encouraged to avoid miscommunication and misunderstandings. The narration touches on the human tendency of shifting blame instead of admitting mistakes and inefficiencies. Peterson encourages listeners to take responsibility for their actions and consider the possibility that they could be the problem. He presents the theme of undergoing self-realization as a route to stop being a problem. This underlines the broader, invaluable advantage, preventing further problems and arguments. Important relationship dynamics are discussed between Bartlett and Dr. Peterson. Peterson gives significant advice. If addressed issues are left untouched, they will multiply. Klee illustrates this with his personal example where he and his wife had a rule not to discuss their daughter's illness after 8 in the evening in order to compartmentalize their emotions and to avoid keeping the issue at the edge of their minds. Sometimes it's about establishing boundaries and rules as a defensive strategy. Peter goes on to explain how listening to your partner regularly and patiently can prevent future conflicts. He emphasizes that men should listen to women for about 90 minutes a week, as women, he believes, are more likely to bring up issues sooner. However, he warns that this could involve some false positives, in which the woman brings up issues that may not exist. He goes deeper into the concept of overcoming being a problem and touches upon self-perception and the defense mechanism. Peterson emphasizes that one needs to face their insufficiencies head-on and not shy away from them. This could involve acknowledging the hard-hitting truth that you're at fault and that you probably need to change. Hyvie, Bartlett, and Peterson explore the idea of addressing your personals or unresolved traumas, where Peterson explains that these cannot merely be covered up. Using the example of being bullied, he underscores how victims can carry this trauma into their adult relationships, viewing every conflict through a bully template. However, through active listening and dispelling accusations with real conversations, these traumas can be addressed effectively. Overall, Peterson stresses the importance of truth in a relationship. It's about vulnerability, about revealing even the darkest parts of oneself, and about staying true even when faced with unpleasant circumstances. As he poignantly puts it, people are full of snakes, but one must confront these snakes head on to ensure the health and longevity of a relationship. This involves painful self-scrutiny, reflection, and an honest acceptance of your flaws and shortcomings. Further, he advises to revisit conflicts gently, to ask your partner how they prefer things to be said or handled, and mold your actions accordingly without violating your conscience. Changing your behavior might feel awkward initially, but through gradual repetitions, it could lead to a major transformation in your relationship dynamic and a deeper sense of understanding. In this part of the discussion, Peter underscores the importance of good communication within a relationship. He discusses the vital need for couples to negotiate and establish an efficient routine to address problems. Giving an example from his personal life, Peterson describes how he and his wife handle matters and discusses how avoiding difficult conversations when either or both partners are tired ensures a smoother and less conflict-ridden conversation. In order to facilitate a healthy relationship, Peterson suggests setting aside at least 90 minutes a week to discuss and address pending issues. Failing to do so may lead to a buildup of problems that would inevitably surface and disrupt moments that should be meaningful and intimate. Peterson also explores his professional experiences as a psychologist dealing with childhood traumas in his patients. Traumas like childhood sexual abuse can shatter a child's world and expose them to the darkest depths of human nature. Recovery involves facing this darkness, developing a philosophy of good and evil, and embodying truth, love, and beauty. Moving into more challenging territory, Peterson describes the grim obedience of ordinary men to the horrors of Nazi Germany. Citing an example from the book Ordinary Men, he underlines how regular middle-aged policemen turned into perpetrators of mass murder due to social pressure and coerced loyalty to their peers. The gradual descent of these men into the abyss allowed them to commit atrocities, highlighting an alarming aspect of human nature. The gravity of these brutalities influenced Peterson to stop lying completely, from white lies to black ones. He elucidates how lies, regardless of their severity, eventually led to hellish outcomes. Each statement should reflect truth at every level, creating harmony rather than discord. Adding a lighter note, Peterson mentions the challenges of truth-telling in everyday life. When asked by his wife how she looks in a dress, Peterson would opt for honesty. He believes that this straightforwardness can help cultivate trust, as each compliment and criticism would hold genuine weight. Peterson delves into the concept of truth and honesty. He states that if a situation compels him to tell a white lie, it indicates an issue he's failed to address. Every misstep is a teaching moment, guiding us away from repeated mistakes. Peterson believes that therapy helps uncover these mistakes and determine the necessary steps to rectify the situation. He utilizes the cartoon trope of an angel and devil at a crossroad to illustrate the gravity of choosing the wrong path. The importance lies in retrospection, leading one to introspect on the wrong decision to find a path towards a brighter future. The discussion steers towards early trauma and its resolution. Peterson underscores the idea of replacing the road you did take with the road you should have taken as the way to resolve trauma. The idea encapsulates his ideology of extracting lessons from the past to promote a more leaning forward. Peterson talks about the challenges faced by young individuals transitioning into adulthood and navigating their identities. He suggests that our society's understanding of identity is regrettably oversimplified, hedonistic, and egocentric. He states that true identity requires one to integrate various aspects of their personality into harmony, elevating above primitive and temporary desires, thereby reaching maturity. He emphasizes that this process shouldn't occur in isolation. It ought to involve loved ones and the community to bring about a holistic sense of identity. Peterson also discusses the decline of religion as a problem impeding the formation of a wholesome identity. He suggests its decline has stripped society of a moral compass, leading to a focus on short-term whims and instant gratification, which is detrimental to one's health and overall life satisfaction. Discussing the hardships of becoming an adult, Peterson mentions that one of the biggest issues is the transition from childhood to adulthood. This is indeed a challenging process that involves developing a mature and responsible identity and engaging positively with a community. He emphasizes that human beings are more than just their basic instincts and desires. They have the potential to create meaningful, fulfilling lives by integrating different aspects of their identities and engaging sincerely with their communities. Peterson spotlights the adverse effects of consumer capitalism on our society, as it cultivates an unhealthy obsession with immediate gratification, ultimately leading to increased misery. My culture encourages an individualistic mindset with a constant focus on one's desires and needs, leading to a neglect of communal responsibilities and spiritual growth. This, Peterson believes, is a false representation of individual identity. He encourages a development that appreciates and nurtures the interplay of different aspects of one's personality. He encourages society not to perceive individuals' moral worth based on their accomplishments. He argues that a person's moral worth is more than what they possess or control, and it's unwise to infer one's moral worth by their level of accomplishment. This perspective challenges the culture of arrogant superiority, often established on materialistic criteria, providing a refreshing perspective on true worth and identity. In this segment, Peterson explores the underpinnings of the identity crisis faced by individuals today. He notes that as society strays further away from religion, there's a shift towards a radical subjectivity, which breeds a sense of immaturity and counterproductivity. Voluntary responsibility is pivotal in shaping a complex identity, fostering maturity and a sense of self that thrives in community building and personal development. Peterson introduces his venture, the Peterson Academy, due to launch in early 2024. It presents an online interactive learning platform that unearths the underlying structure of the typical university and attempts to reshape it by uniting bright minds and providing them with a platform to share knowledge on a global scale. Despite the financial security and autonomy given to these professors, there is no hidden political intention ensuring freedom for genuine knowledge sharing. Peterson believes in the potential for our individual's life to be tremendously dynamic. He ascribes his own to the choice not to lie. Stop saying things you believe to be untrue. Stop doing things you know to be wrong. The host, Stephen Bartlett, brackets this message with appreciations of Peterson's honesty and contributions to the conversation, convincingly reshaping many lives. Peterson also addresses his present health condition, describing a constant flu-like state of bodily pain, an issue his doctors are yet unable to diagnose. Despite this, he expresses gratitude for the clarity of his mental state and the excitement his bustling life affords him, marked by constant interesting encounters and exhibitions. Contrary to the commonly held belief that an exciting life is a privilege bestowed on a few, Peterson believes that everyone is capable of leading a fulfilling and adventurous life. His ethos of taking responsibility provides a simple roadmap to success, laying emphasis on confronting and accepting reality as it is and the transformative potentiality of truth. Lastly, a conversation ensues on the development and impending launch of Hue, a nutrition bar created by the podcast host. This snack promises to be nutritionally complete without compromises on taste, a feat that the host seems particularly proud of, further emphasizing it has very low sugar content. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to comment and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.